Welcome to Financial Modeling and Valuation course by FINMODEL classes. In this session, we'll be continuing with the approach of financial models. When we talk about approach to financial model, you have two types of approach. One is the top-down approach, and one is your bottom-up approach. So top-down approach, here we mean that the company has to see from the broad level, that is the macroeconomic point of view. It means that the company has to see what is the market share that it has captured. So what is the market share it has captured? And suppose say it has a market share of say 35%, the capturing of market share, and depending upon the market share, whether it has to increase some more, suppose 2% of market share has to be increased for next year, that could be the target of the firm. So depending upon that, it has to reframe the revenue and the cost strategy. So for reframing the revenue and cost strategy, definitely it has to remodify or reclassify whatever the workings it has at the middle level. That is nothing but that could be a target given to a business unit, right? Or the cost center, or the investment center, or the profit center, depending upon the sub schedules that companies have their own set of targets. So depending upon that, say suppose a business unit, okay, the business unit will be given a target. So the business unit will be at the lower level, it will be reframing the strategies, like how much inventory I have to maintain. Suppose it is a retail store, it will be deciding how much inventory I have to keep in the shop. Or suppose it is an automobile sector, it has to say how much vehicles I have to produce this per month. Or suppose it is a service based firm, how much a service I can provide, at what cost, how much cost it will occur. So the level is being determined at the lower level. Right? So level is determined at the lower level, right? So the service, if it is a service based firm, or the product. Now when we talk about the bottom-up approach is reverse of your top-down approach. Here the company will look from the micro point of view towards the macro point of view. So it will be seeing the firm level risk, what is the risk factor that it has, and how much target level it has to achieve. So these are the micro level criteria it will be looking after. Then it will be approaching towards the macro level, the economic factors, the macroeconomic factors that it will be seeing. So this is the approach will differ from the requirement that company has. It may differ from one to one. So broadly, when we say that the financial model has to be, maybe it may be used, the financial model normally could be done for anything. It could be a revenue model to be generated, or it could be a cost model to be generated, or it could be generating the projection of the financial statements. So financial statements, we have the balance sheet, the income statement, and the cash flow statement, CFS, cash flow statements. So these are the things that we have to little bit concerned, right? So we are more concerned with generating the production of our financial statement, the economic indicators that we have to see. So what are the key indicators or key metrics that is more important for to be done. In the similar way, this financial model can be used for another purpose also, maybe achieving a particular target. So what is the target level of sales that could be achieved, or the budgeting fact, that could be a budgeting model. So it differs depending upon the company's requirement and the policy that they frame. So once this has been done, right, Next thing that you have to do is that you have to select a sector, right? So you have to select the sector. So which sector you are going to do? Select the sector. The sector I refer here is that I'll be referring two sectors only, but just I'll be giving you what are the various sectors. We have the banking sectors. We have the banking sector. Then we have the pharma sector. Then we have the oil and gas. These are the broad, okay, oil and gas. Then you have the financial services, financial services. Then you have the telecom sector, telecom. Then you have the auto industry. Then you have the FMCG, which is the broad part, right? Then you have the power, or we can say it as energy sector. And then you can go for the chemical or the infrastructure, or you can go for the metals and minings. So these are the various sectors which is available. This is the limited sector that I have given you, but there are various several other sectors where you can go for that. So you select the sector that where you want to get more specialized or get more analysis to be done. So you can't able to specialize in all the sectors. Normally you have to specialize in one or two sectors. That will become very easy for us to do a very in-depth analysis of a particular company while doing evaluation, or we can get into the more granularity or in a more detail. So banking sector, within the banking sector you have to select the banks. So normally we talk about the HDFC Bank. Banks, you have HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank, Axis Bank. I put it HDFC Bank, ICICI, Kotak Mahindra. If it is a private sector, suppose you want to do only the public sector bank, you go for Indian Bank. Okay, now it has been merged. Similarly, go for the pharma sector. If I see about the pharma sectors, you have the Cipla, right? Dr. Reddy's Laboratories. Then you have Ranbaxy, right? So you go for those companies. You have to select those companies, and you have to select those companies' annual statement or the annual report. Then if you go for the oil and gas industries, you can go for the GAIL India Limited. So I'm just giving you the example of the sectors. Within this you have the companies, and for these companies you have to do the financial model. If I talk about financial services, you go for the the Power Finance Corporation. You have IDFC, LIC Housing Finance. In the same way you have for telecom, Reliance Communication, Tata Communications, Bharti Airtel, right? So you can do the company's financial model for Airtel, and for Reliance Communication you can do, and Tata Teleservice Auto Limited. Then you have the auto sector. The auto sectors, we have the Mahindra, and you have the Tata Motors. So these are the companies that you can select between the auto sector. Then when you talk about FMCG is most, you have the Hull, Hindustan Unilever, right? Then you have Nestle. Then you have the Asian Paints, right? So Asian Paints comes under FMCG. Then you can go for ITC, right? So you can select any company, and you can do a financial model for that, and you can see the performance indicator with the help of the financial models. Then you can choose any industry called power. So power, we have Tata Power, then you have Reliance Power, then you have the NTPC. You can select the companies, and the variables get changed. The economic variables or the financial variables that we will be analyzing, it will differ from industry to industry, right? Then if you come to the infrastructure, You can go for the Larsen Turbo, L&T, then you have Reliance Infrastructure, GMR in infrastructure. So now whatever the metrics that you take, there will be industry metrics that you have to see. Depending upon the industry metrics, you have to reframe your revenue and the cost models. Then we talk about the metals and mining. You can go for Tata Steel, right? Tata Steel. You have various companies. Then you have the Coal India Limited, or you have the Jindal Steel and Power. So these are the companies I have just given you a very limited set of companies I have given, and the limited sector that I have given you an overview of the overview that I have given you, the ideas that you can just get grasp over it, and you can start selecting these sectors you have. So it does not mean that we have this limited with the only sectors. You can go for doing a financial model for a startup firm also. So startup firm becomes a little bit difficult for us, because the revenue factors to be seen, the business model of the company has to be known, right? The startup company's business model has to be known. You should do an interview with the founder. You have to do an interview with the finance officer who is working in the startup companies. Then you have to go and approach the analyst if they are working in the startup companies. You can have a discussion with them, have an interview with them. So then only you can able to drag out the information which is relevant for building a financial model. So these are the basic things that you have to do before getting to that. But in my course, I will be getting with the 2-part 1. I will be working with the FMCG. Okay, FMCG I'll be doing with the Asian Paints, or any of the companies I'll be choosing, and we'll be getting into the banking sectors. So two things I'll be discussing. I'll be working on the financial model of this one, FMCG and banking.